Tournament edition. I'm your host, Chris Lynch, and we've got a couple people joining in on the pre-tournament episode where we'll explain our brackets and our thoughts and maybe our working mind logic for the teams we think that will reach the Frozen Four. First off, who was a guy was with me on the Beanpot episodes and was on press row with me for the Hockey East tournament in Boston, Josh Kummins of the New England Hockey Journal. Josh, thanks for popping back on with us, man.
No problem. Thanks, Chris.
And also a guest, I feel bad for our other guest. He's been on this show before. Friend from the blog Pucking Off. I brought him on to help write with Inside Hockey, and we intended to have him at Lake Placid for the ECAC tournament. He would have had one day of blowouts and one day of really good championship caliber hockey, but he ended up in a car accident trying to get out there before he ever arrived. He is okay, though. Jason Scales, I'm so sorry that that's what your weekend turned out to be, and I'm so happy that you're okay.
Well, the weekend might have been a train wreck, but, at least I didn't get to see Harvard lose.
That's right. You are. That's right.
And I didn't get to see Brown get blown out. So it would have been a long, boring drive for nothing, probably.
Well, for the first day, anyway. You would have gotten an exciting overtime championship game. That's true.
But I survived.
Yeah. Yeah. We're happy to have you feeling okay. We're happy to have you kicking and moving and still up for some hockey talk and up for some. You'll be helping me out with Inside Hockey writing and photography work for the Providence and Manchester regionals, and that should be a good time. So let's get into the stuff that happened. We'll start with the stuff that Josh and I saw over the weekend, which was Northeastern officially turning TD Garden into a home ice advantage. They have two of the banners the only two banners that are not Bruins or Celtics related are now the Beanpot champion and the Hockey East champion, and both of those belong to the Northeastern University Huskies. And they did so in entertaining, albeit scary fashion for the second day in a way, but a convincing weekend and a seminal, I think you could fairly say, crowning moment for Northeastern, if that makes sense, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was the second day was interesting for sure, but it never seemed like, even though talking about that championship game against BC, it never really felt like it was out of their control, even though there was that little point in the game where like you mentioned, it was maybe a little bit up in the air, but obviously Caden Primo was so good over both of those games, and really, like we've talked about before at the Beanpot and in the press box at the game, he's just that guy. He's so consistent, and he's been obviously a big part of everything that they've done this year, and I would certainly expect that to continue as we move into this weekend in Providence. It was a fun weekend there. Certainly, I don't think maybe most people expected what happened with UMass, but you have to credit BC and Joe Wall, another team with a really great goaltender, and they were able to take that. So I'm interested to see kind of how those two teams go into this weekend, maybe a little bit of opposite states here.
Yeah, let's spend some time talking about the teams that were sent home rather unceremoniously. The two long-term reigning powers of Hockey East in Boston College and Boston University. BC played the game of their lives on Friday night in the semifinals to beat UMass. It took everything they had and everything that they possibly could pour out. And I think we'll touch on UMass here right now as well. We'll do them and then the Boston schools. Greg Carvel wasn't, at least publicly to us, he wasn't like furiously angry, but he was very obviously disappointed over a performance where he said his guys just didn't show up. And I hate to agree, but I think he's entirely right about that whole thing, about his team just not showing up and losing 3-0 to a goaltender who, had BC won, Joel would have been the MVP of the tournament, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I guess it's just a really bad time to have an effort like that. I didn't think, certainly I don't think Philly Lindbergh played particularly badly at all. I just think that there wasn't a ton of help in front of him. And I guess like Coach Carvel said, you have to think that that'll be the only time that something like that happens again. If they're going to get beat this weekend, it's going to have to be because the team that they play, regardless of how far and if they advance, is going to play really, really well. But yeah, it was an interesting scenario. I certainly didn't expect them to lose in that fashion, but yeah, it didn't seem like it was the fault of goaltending at all. Like you said, it just felt like that they didn't really show up, and the players have been the best really all season long. Makar and everyone that we've talked about for a long time here. It's just maybe didn't I don't know what it was, but they just didn't show up to play. To, like we said, credit BC, and I think that's really all you can say. There's not much more to say than say otherwise than that.
Jason, how much of the game did you actually get to see, the UMass BC game, if any?
No, I saw a good portion of it. I mean, I definitely think credit to BC. They just outplayed them top to bottom. Bill Wall, another amazing performance, as he's been known to give throughout his 3-year career at BC. I don't think that the Minutemen, I don't think they showed up to play the way they could have. But at the same time, I mean, BC's no slouch. I know that they lost, 21 games, 22 games?
Yeah, 22 was their final loss.
Yeah, 22. As we've said before, they have on paper, one of the best teams in the country. So it's,
right.
I mean, UMass had to show up, and they just didn't. So it's, you almost wonder, though, I guess maybe I'll save it for going forward, but, was it the right call to play Lindbergh in that game? I mean, I agree with it, but was it the right thing to do? Who knows?
I think so. I think it absolutely was. And I say that because of the reasons why UMass ended up losing, Lindbergh is dead last on that list. Lindbergh was one of the reasons why they were in the game at all. And so just flipping him out for Murray, a goaltender who the weekend before had really, really struggled. It just, he just didn't play that well against New Hampshire. And I'd be very intrigued to see who UMass picks to be their starter moving forward in the NCAAs against Harvard. And we'll talk about that matchup a little bit later. But the forward core, I thought, was the most disappointing piece of the UMass effort. I mean, I thought Ferraro threw out some nice hits throughout that game. I thought Makar handled it decently enough. He didn't look like normal dominant Cale Makar, but he looked fine. He looked like he was an acceptable and a good college hockey player, but he didn't look like the dominant force that we've come to expect out of him, and maybe even spoiled rotten too. And that's in part because BC played well. They shut down the opportunities in the lanes. And one other question: does playing on a large ice sheet hurt UMass moving on? I can't help but think that it does.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've maintained for years that that's what hurts UNH when it comes to, big games and stuff. I think it's going to be the same for UMass. I mean, everywhere else is just smaller, and you see the difference when they play at home and play on the road. They wiped the floor with Northeastern one night, and then lost in a squeaker the next.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting problem to have. It does. I wonder if it plays some bit in allowing foreign players the opportunity to transition into North American ice. But I think there is something to be said about New Hampshire being pre-04 Boston Red Sox in their inability to win in NCAA tournament games for their entire history, regrettably, for them. I'm sorry, UNH fans, if I'm bringing you into this and bringing your pain into this, but it's unavoidable for that point not to be made. So yeah, a tough way for BC to end, particularly the hit on Logan Hutsko. And we should say now that he looks like he's going to recover. It looks like he's going to be fine, but it felt oddly, kind of like sadly emblematic of the way that season went. It was a bad year for BC, all things considered. Even with the late surge and the late push, that still is not a good season for Jerry York standards. I mean, it's barely a good season for a college hockey program standards, let alone Jerry York standards.
Yeah, I mean, if you could put your finger on what went wrong there, then you should be up for like Nobel proportion sized a raise. Because, I mean, what do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
what was it? I mean, they have all the talent in the world, and I mean, and you see that once the season ended, it's like an exodus.
Yeah,
everybody's just like rats off a ship. Not to say, that's what it's like there, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. Joe Wool is now signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs. How many other BC players? Because a lot of BU players ended up departing. I think I might have lost track. How many guys have actually left from BC? There were 4 guys who left from BU to go sign in the pros. I think I lost track of how many Eagles departed as well. I know at least Wool is gone.
Wallstrom just left last night.
Wallstrom left as well.
Yeah.
Did he? Who did he sign with?
He's property of the Islanders. I'd have to double check to see if he's signing with Bridgeport.
Mm-hmm.
Is that who their team is?
Yeah.
Check and see.
Yeah,
Go ahead. His seemed like an interesting case because it didn't seem for sure where he's going. I know I saw a tweet yesterday or the day before that he might even be going to Europe. So I don't think he really knows where he's going yet. But he's definitely not coming back. That much we know for sure.
He might be going to Europe as well.
Yeah.
I gotta have some questions about because so Nate Wells of the Athletic Minnesota, he covers the Gophers and all the stuff out there. He tweeted this out. So Oliver Wahlstrom ends the craziest college hockey path in history. Yeah. Okay, commits to Maine at 13 years old on January 14, 2014. Decommits from Maine in July of 2015. Commits to Harvard August 2015. He stays committed to Harvard until early 2018. And this point isn't actually stated here. It's not clear as to where he decommitted, but he decommits from Harvard in early 2018. He commits to BC in May of 2018. He plays his first game in October 2018. Now, somewhere in this whole thing, a team in the USHL lists him as being added to their roster even though he never left. He helps BC to the Hockey East Championship game and then leaves BC in March 2019. Guys, should we all be concerned about this kid? I think I saw from somewhere of College Hockey Inc. of how few players commit that young, and it should be noted with him, Wahlstrom committed to Maine when he was 13 years old. I just have to wonder if that had an impact on this crazy path that he took.
Probably. I would think so. And then, I mean, as a Hartman fan, I didn't even know that he wasn't coming until he was on the cover of the Hockey Journal, and in like a BC jersey. Like, what did I miss? So I guess I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like he's who knows, just strange duck, I guess.
Yeah. It's a weird progression. It's a weird direction forward for him, and I hope he finds some measure of success. How likely is it that he ended up going to Europe instead of signing with the Sound Tigers or maybe at least eventually being called up to the NHL, because he's a great player. It's just he's made his situation a lot more complicated probably than it needs to be, at least it seems like to me.
Yeah, I mean, then you wonder. He's certainly talented, but to consider, committing at 13, playing for the U18s, I mean, I'm not the type to say that somebody's not good, because if you're playing, you're good. But I didn't see what the big hoopla was. He was just another player. To me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Josh, you've gotten to see him and follow him, and I'm sure you've written some stories about him. So, you have any insight for us on our guy Wahlstrom?
Yeah, I mean, and it's certainly going to be interesting to see what happens here. Obviously, I know from a lot of people around here obviously knew him from when he was 9 or 10 years old, and he scored that goal in the Garden in the shootout. So I guess if you're going to blah on anything, that might be it. But certainly, I know obviously all the scouts around here were. You'd see his shot was pretty incredible, and you got to see that a little bit, but it just felt like things never came together for that entire team, and kind of his season was a little bit of a microcosm of what happened. Like you said, it's really hard to put your finger on what did happen, because outside of David Cotton this year on that team, that really whole team's talent never really came through. But it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward here. Certainly going to be a player that we hear about going forward, but this path is certainly, like you said, a crazy one, and even this year as well, with that potential kind of paper move as it turned out to be. But wouldn't have surprised me if you saw something in the middle of the season too, just because of kind of how crazy and fast these timelines and these paths move for some of these higher end guys.
Yeah, David Cotton really the only, other than Joe Woll, the only player who shone through in a big way with 23 goals. That's tied for second in the nation. He's tied with Ludwig Stenlund in Niagara, who helped his team to the Atlantic Hockey Championship before falling in overtime to American International College. Which, by the way, congratulations to the Yellow Jackets of American International. I think one of the better stories in college hockey in a year full of incredible stories. They're going to the NCAA tournament for the first time in the history of the program, and they get the opportunity to face St. Cloud State, so have fun with that one, boys. But Steinlund ties Cotton, Troy Loggins in Northern Michigan, Alex Mogues of Penn State, one of the first teams out of the tournament, and Johnny Walker from Arizona State, which I have to note this point again. Arizona State's going to play in the NCAA tournament. That's unreal. Yep. That's just, what is this sport? I think I like it, but I don't think I understand it anymore. Granted, I don't think I ever understood it really, but yeah, I mean, we got the benefit. Josh and I actually, did you get to see them play at all when they came east? Because they were at BU and they were at Harvard a couple times.
I did go to the first. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I saw them at BU.
And I saw them at Harvard one game.
Yeah. So we've all gotten to see that team. I only watched the front end of their series with Harvard. A game that they lost, a game that Harvard ended up winning, and one that ended up really helping them out in the pairwise moving forward and helping Harvard get into the NCAA tournament. I also watched them lose to BU in the front end of that series. So I guess I have to be at the back end of their road series in order to see them win anything. But yeah, Joey Dackard is a real goaltender, and Johnny Walker I didn't see him score any goals, but he skated really nicely whenever I got to watch him play. So big congratulations to Arizona State for being a team that has, I don't know what to make of their future moving forward, but they've got a really good present right now, so that's kind of dope, right? For lack of a better way of putting it, I guess.
No, absolutely. I think it's a great story between them and Penn State, rising pretty much from nothing and making the tournament in just a short period of time. I think it's only good for the game of hockey, whether they get beat 10-0 or pull off the upset. I think it's a great story regardless.
Yeah, they get to face Quinnipiac in the worst titled regional, the worst one in all of the NCAA, because it reminds us that we haven't even gone to school enough to know our geography. The Midwest Regional at the PPL Center in Allentown, Pennsylvania, which just I'm gonna call it the Mid-Atlantic Regional. Call it literally anything other than the Midwest Regional, because this is absolutely wrong. It's just so stupid, and I can't stand it at all. Granted, when a lot of people in the country think of the West Regional, it's like the West Coast in California. And Fargo is still West. That still counts. The Northeast in Manchester, okay, that works. And the East in Providence, well, technically it's more Northeast than either the Midwest or the West Regional. But I'm going to complain about this because this geography makes absolutely no sense. I'm sorry for a momentary just lapse of just because what the actual hell is this?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to nobody wants to sponsor it for the weekend. I don't know.
Right, that's exactly what it comes down to.
What, none of the schools who could host it want to end up sponsoring it? Or is it really that simple?
Yeah, a lot of times, a lot of these things, it goes down to obviously I do a lot of baseball too, and even some things as small as the Division III tournaments. They just struggle to find schools to host them because obviously it is, especially at a time of the year like this where there's so much going on. It can be as simple as finding the resources and the schools that have resources to host these things. So sometimes it is as simple as that.
Huh? I guess I didn't realize it was that much. I mean, because there are the schools that can host it. I mean, the Worcester Regional is hosted by Holy Cross, and you wouldn't. No offense to Holy Cross, but you wouldn't mistake them for being anything of a hockey power or anything like that. I mean, honestly, I would. What I'd love to see actually is have a regional in Springfield. That building that they have out there is really nice as well. I just thinking of places where you could end up hosting it, but I understand that. I guess that makes some sense trying to find all the space and all that different sort of stuff. So let's take a look at some of the other conferences and the other stuff that ended up happening. We mentioned the Atlantic. AIC is moving on to the NCAA tournament. Congratulations to them. Let's do the other regional that was held in upstate New York, the ECAC regional, the one that our man Jason was supposed to go to, but circumstances prevented that. Day one of the ECAC tournament in Lake Placid was a blowout. Cornell annihilates Brown, and I didn't get to see much of the highlights because I was focused on the Hockey East stuff, but it felt like at the start of the third period that Harvard at least had a fighting chance against Clarkson and just entirely ran out of gas. So that's quite a shame. At least the championship game was cool and stuff, and Clarkson pulls off the win for their first ECAC championship in a very long time. They beat Cornell, who's one of the traditional powers, and has been a recent force in that conference as well. So congratulations to Clarkson for winning the ECAC title and for a tough and it's a frustrating year for Cornell as well. At least they go to the NCAA tournament because it feels like they had somewhat of a similar track as BC, except they actually won more games and won the stuff that they were supposed to and get rewarded with a bid in the NCAA tournament, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly...
Yeah, I was just going to say, it seems like even though they made it, they're a little bit of a question mark, too, because of the situation with Galida. I'm not sure where that stands. The last I saw was he's doubtful to play. But obviously, that's going to be a major kind of story to follow as far as going forward.
Mm-hmm. That seems like, I mean, when they came to Harvard and got to play McGrath is not a bad goalie in his own right, but Galida has the potential of being an absolute superstar. So, by the way, it's Clarkson's first ECAA tournament since 2007, so their first time winning it in 12 years. This will be their second consecutive NCAA tournament appearance. Yeah, you have your concerns about Cornell, and you have some you have a lot of praise for Clarkson because that's a good team that they've got there. That's a fun team. I didn't get to see them at all this year. The last time I got to watch them was last season when they reached the NCAA tournament and got just stymied. They were held to 18 shots in the tournament by a really talented Providence team and the talented defensive team in the Bridgeport Regional. So here's hoping that they end up having a better run of it moving forward. The Big Ten, Notre Dame hosted again and wins again. They beat Penn State, and I gotta say, I'm happy that Notre Dame's moving on because I have hockey qualms with Penn State. They have a paper thin defense, and if you can't stop allowing, if you allow that many goals, you probably shouldn't be in the NCAA tournament. And it's a shame that they're one of the first teams out, but I hope I'm not coming across as too harsh. But guys, improve your defense in Hockey Valley. Then you'll actually win stuff. Just saying.
Yeah, as fun as they are offensively, they do have a weak defense. Their offense, their defensemen are offensive-minded, too. Most of them are small, and they're puck-moving, and they're fun to watch, but yeah, they probably wouldn't have lasted long if they were to make the tournament. And Notre Dame, they're just so well balanced. They have it all. So I wasn't surprised by that result.
The shot totals in the shot totals in this championship game are unreal. Penn State 48-29 were the shot totals on that game, and Cale Morris, another Cale, which means he's really good at hockey, came up with 46 saves on he was unreal again, and he'll have a chance to try and lead his team to what would be a third consecutive Frozen Four appearance should they win 2 games and make it out of there, which would be a remarkable achievement for what was just about 14, 15 years ago a doormat program that was a joke at Notre Dame, and now they set the record for the biggest crowd in their building for the championship game, and they're in the NCAA tournament again. File Notre Dame under the rather remarkable transitions to success. And Josh, you and I got to watch them when they were a Hockey East team. It's so good for them to be in the Big Ten now, or to be in a conference that's in the upper Midwest at least.
Yeah, you could always see, even when they were here, just the kind of talent that they had. Obviously, at that point in time, they were going up against some really good Hockey East teams, but and still made the tournament at that point a couple times too. But yeah, it's certainly going to be a fun team to watch, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them at all come out of that Manchester Regional. It's going to be tough, and whether it's UMass or Harvard or they're playing Clarkson in the first round, but I think that regional is going to be a really fun one. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go forward, but I would not at all be surprised to see them come out just because, like Jason said, they do have so much depth and Morris and goal in there. They're so well balanced overall. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see them.
I'll go along with and agree with that one, and it's nice to see Notre Dame actually winning stuff, and I'm sure they want to get back to the Frozen Four and avenge their loss to Duluth in the championship game last year. There's 2 other tournament games. We'll touch on these quickly because obviously none of us were here for it. The WCHA was almost a spectacular story for Bowling Green, and it turned into a spectacular story for Minnesota State Mankato. They score Bowling Green, who is going to the tournament. That program almost folded out of existence around 2009 and 2010 or so. That program, which has a national championship in its history, nearly completely folded and would have been shut down had it not been for the work of some very, very dedicated alums. So it's great to see a program survive, and they get rewarded with a chance at the tournament. But Mankato, Jake Jaremko and Connor McKay with 2 goals, each scored in the last minute and change, both with the goalie pulled to tie the game, and Nick Rivera, a minute 37 into overtime, scores to win the WCHA title for the Mavericks, a team that I've not been a big fan of for the whole time that I've been covering them. I liked them last year, and they disappointed me, and so I expected them to disappoint again this year. And no, they win 32 games. So I guess that tells you all you need to know about my hockey knowledge, I guess.
No, I mean, they're certainly very talented, and Mike Hastings has done a tremendous job of bringing in players, and he gets them from everywhere. They used to have Massachusetts native on the team not that long ago, Johnny McGinnis, and they dominate the WCHA. We'll see if anything comes in the tournament this year, but I'm not holding my breath.
I mean, it's weird. The WCHA has only had a team. There's one school that has won tournament games since the conference got entirely overhauled going into the 13-14 season. That team is Ferris State. They've never had. Yep. They've won twice, and they've never had a team. They'll have 2 tries this year in Bowling Green and Mankato. Mankato is the number 1 seed in the Providence Regional, and they get to play Providence. So, this makes sense. This goes to Josh's point of how the regionals frequently turn into who has the hosting resources, but I don't really like this. I didn't like it when Harvard had to face them. I didn't like them when Miami had to face them in Providence. And it leads to hilarious situations in which the team has to stay in a hotel in Warwick, Rhode Island, because it would break NCAA rules for them to be staying in their own dorms before an NCAA tournament game. It's just, Josh, am I alone for thinking that this is really stupid?
I can see both sides to this argument. And again, kind of going back to what we were talking about, they aren't obligated. If Providence was the host of the regional, they would be obligated to be there because they're hosting. And I guess that's one of the NCAA rules, and rules for everything. But one of the NCAA rules that if you do take on that responsibility, and should you make the tournament, you would get to, but Brown is the host. So they're not obligated to, but I think especially in this season where the kind of the Eastern influence of the tournament isn't as strong as it had been when, especially in the point in time where there were 6 Hockey East teams making it, I don't really see a problem with it. But at the same time, especially where they're a number 4 seed, I understand the people who don't like it as much, but especially in this tournament, I'm not really minding that this happens, and I know a lot of people who follow the brackets and kind of do a lot of the projections as to what the committee might think. It seemed like that this year, because of kind of all of those reasons, that it wasn't really a major long shot for that to happen, regardless of what happens. So I'm not really surprised by it, and it doesn't really bother me one way or the other. But certainly it could be thought of as an advantage, or I guess for the team, like you said, that's won 30 games, and it could very well be for naught if they win another one. But it'll be fun, and obviously kind of talking about goalies, as we have a lot on this one. Hayden Hockey is certainly capable of stealing 2 games for the weekend. So I guess we'll see how that goes, but that part of it doesn't really bother me, especially in the way that the kind of the season has gone this year and the tournament field is shaping out.
Mm-hmm. Jason, I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on Providence being placed in the Providence Regional.
I think more so because there's a 4 seed, which is kind of like, are you going to reward them for that? But at the same time, I mean, they are a solid 4 seed. So, I mean, if anything, I feel bad for Minnesota State because luck of the draw. They have to basically fly across the country, play in their backyard, and I mean that Providence team could probably win it all. I don't know if they will, but I mean they're talented enough, and like Josh said, Hayden Hockey, when he's on, he's one of the best in the game. So I completely understand the logic behind putting them there with all the rules and criteria that they want to meet. But it does kind of feel like it's always them. Why is it always Providence? But they did lose to Harvard in Providence in 2017, so it's not an automatic win for them being at home or being in Providence.
Yeah.
So, they're still going to play the game, I guess.
Yeah. About that, I still remember going into that one feeling like Providence wasn't going to pull it off, and really just because I think more than anything, Harvard was such a machine at that point in time that I didn't think until Harvard ran into Denver or Duluth, which they would have to when they reached Chicago that year. I felt like Providence would put up a good test, but I just thought Harvard was such a well-performing team at that point in time. So I think that loss that Providence had in the 2017 tournament is a lot more about Harvard being so dominant that year for Eastern hockey than it had to do with Providence being a lesser team or anything like that. Maybe just my perspective on that whole deal. And the last championship game, a lot of people have been saying that, and I can't blame them, that this might be a preview of the NCHC championship game. St. Cloud State defeats Duluth in double overtime to pull off the NCHC championship, and I got to watch some of the highlights of that game, and it was as spectacular as people said it was. And St. Cloud, worthy of being the number one seed in the tournament overall. Duluth, a worthy contender to win the national championship again and be the first team to win back-to-back national championships since the 04-05 Denver Pioneers did it. So I just, how much of this game were you guys able to get to watch and get to see, if anything of it?
Yeah, Saturday night for me, because I was home recuperating, it was just one of those glorious nights where you have the clicker and you had, 3 games on TV, and I was just bouncing between all 3 of them. And that one was just, it's the cream of the crop. It really is. Just back and forth, physical, talent. Talent come out of the ears for those 2 teams. Yeah. So it's, I would not be shocked if either one of them wins the entire thing. But, yeah, they're both just complete programs. And, for Coach Goffin to come in first year and have that type of talent, it's to be expected. But at the same time, they've basically been top dogs from start to finish this year. So, power to them for keeping it all together.
Fair description of it, I think. Josh and I got to... Actually, Josh, were you at the Northeastern St. Cloud game when they came out here early on in the season?
I was at the BC game as well, so talk about contrast.
Well, in part, BC was just performing so god-awfully that early stretch that St. Cloud just tore them apart, and Northeastern performed well enough. I still think that win is one of the big reasons why Northeastern propelled themselves to have the year that they did. That's still one of the seminal games of the season, and I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being a matchup somewhere down the road. But it's a phenomenal St. Cloud team, and they had to beat a phenomenal Duluth team in order to do it, which is, I really think, the most impressive piece of the whole deal. So a big congratulations to St. Cloud. Best of luck to Duluth moving forward. Puck University will continue after a brief word.
Life is about making decisions. At BMW I, we decided it was time to reinvent the car from the ground up, making sure we were open for truly innovative ideas. we decided that the car we wanted must be electric. And it should be made of extremely light and super strong carbon fiber. And finally, we decided to make it more intelligent and added our promise of incomparable driving pleasure. We made all these decisions to offer you a choice. The all-electric BMW i3.
And now we get to the fun part, the bracket part, the one where we take a look at the regional, and with the combined hockey wisdom on this podcast, we get to take a look at and predict the most predictable college tournament by miles, right? No, we're probably going to be wrong on all this stuff. Let's get into let's talk about what we expect. I'm sorry for insulting our intelligence by us claiming to be Nostradamus. Let's talk about the tournaments. And let's start with the ones that let's start with the West Regional, which I think is the most straightforward, but has one matchup in here that is really, really juicy. Us at Inside Hockey, we'll have a guy out there, Eric Burton. He is going to this regional, so he'll get to see all the stuff that goes down. Game 1 at 3 o'clock Central Standard Time will be between Ohio State and Denver. Game 2 will be between AIC and St. Cloud. I don't think anyone is beating St. Cloud coming out of this regional, and anyone want to posit an argument against that?
Nope.
I mean, no, but I can see Denver beating St. Cloud. They're conference rivals. Denver's not a joke. You know what I mean? They still have a talented team. So I wouldn't be surprised if Denver pulled it off, but I don't see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, I go with St. Cloud. I feel bad for AIC.
Yeah.
That's gonna be brutal.
It can be brutal. I mean, it should be noted as well that this St. Cloud team, with a lot of its same personnel, lost to Air Force last year and were upset as the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. So it's not impossible, and I think AIC has some talent to at least give them a fight, but I just don't think anyone in that regional is. And I actually saw some people saying that Ohio State would end up making it out of that regional, and I just think no, because that Ohio State Buckeye team, though talented, is as cold as an iceberg. And I just can't help but think that I feel bad for the Buckeyes because they're a good team and stuff, but it would just be a really unfortunate turn, in part for the Big Ten, for one of their Frozen Four participants to win the regular season title, get knocked around in the early bits of the tournament, and then end up losing in one game to a really good Denver team, who they beat last year to get to the Frozen Four. But I just don't. Josh, I hope I'm not being too hard on Ohio State, but I can't help but think that they're just too cold to do anything, right?
Yeah, going back to what Jason was talking about, I think that, and especially after seeing, and even in that Northeastern game that St. Cloud State played as well, I saw them play those 2 games live. You could just see that they were, and I think they still are, the most impressive team that I've seen this year, and I don't really know if it's particularly close. I just think that no matter what happens in that other game, and I think it will be Denver coming out of the first game too, but I just don't think anyone's taking the St. Cloud team out like you talking about it with some of these other teams to a certain extent, but there's no doubt that they're certainly complete and certainly a team that could go very far and, like you're talking about, potentially win it all.
So we all agree that St. Cloud will end up moving on to the Frozen Four for only the. Shockingly, it would only be the second time that St. Cloud would have ever made the NCAA tournament. The other time being 2013 when they ended up falling to Quinnipiac. But we all are in agreement that it'll be St. Cloud coming out of the West Regional.
Yes.
Yep.
Cool. Let's talk about the Northeast Regional at the Southern New Hampshire University Arena, or SNHU Arena, in Manchester, New Hampshire. And Well, we all have some personal vested interest in the results of this one. The first game at 3 p.m. Eastern Time will be between Harvard and UMass. The second game at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, it's a scheduled puck drop anyway, will be between Notre Dame and Clarkson. And, Jason, you are both a Harvard fan and a UMass fan. You have the floor. Hammer out your emotional state entering this game on Friday afternoon.
All right. As much as I'm disappointed, because the hockey fan in me was hoping that this one would come in the championship. Having it come right smack dab the first game of the tournament, Harvard. To me, Harvard just has too many questions. Oh, I shouldn't say too many questions. The question goal, I think it's just too much to overcome. My head says UMass, my heart says Harvard, but I think UMass is going to prevail. As good as Cam Gwinnett was in replacement of Lackey, and as well as Lackey's played all year, I just don't think that they can keep pace with UMass. It's just going to be it'll be a very entertaining game, especially when there's a penalty on either team with the two best power plays in the nation. Like, that's just going to be I want penalties. I want to see both teams at work, because it's unbelievable, watching what each can do, and to see. I mean, I think it's one of the things too, where to see Cale Makar head to head against Adam Fox, those to me are the two best defensemen in the country, and should be the top two for the Hobie Baker. And I just think that's going to just be a phenomenal game to watch. I'll be happy whoever wins. I'll be sad whoever wins. But I think when it comes down to having an actual chance to win the next game and make it to the Frozen Four, and I have to go with UMass.
Josh, you also are a New England person. If it were to be fair to categorize you as a fan of anything, it'd be Northeastern, because your dad is a Northeastern alum. But you are primarily a reporter, and you've seen a lot of both these teams. Thoughts, opinions, and reaction to this being the early matchup?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Jason said. I think it is going to be a fun game, and I'm certainly looking forward to that Fox-Makar matchup, because it's two really special guys, and it's I would be shocked if they weren't the two top Hobie Baker guys, but I just think that at this point you kind of want to see the team that doesn't have a lot of those question marks, and I think even though there is a little bit of a question mark, I guess you could say, with what UMass can do in goal, but I don't think that's a bad question to have to answer, because both of them have been so good over the course of the season. I don't know which way that they're going to go. I know I seem to think that it would be Lindbergh at the beginning when we were talking about it, but I think it's certainly going to be a good problem to have, and I think either way that they go, I think that they'll be that they're the favorite and the team that I would expect to kind of come out of this game.
Yeah, Josh Wallfish tweeted out one response, basically that they hadn't decided whether or not they hadn't decided on what the goaltending situation would end up being. And also, Josh tweeted this out about Makar. Greg Carvel is going to kick Cale Makar into the NHL after this season. He's going to sign that contract himself if Makar is skeptical. Makar would love to have him back, but he's not naive enough to actually take him back. He knows Makar is ready. I think that's a fair assessment of the situation. I think that can be applied to Fox as well, that the situation just, it's going to be I think that both those guys are gone to the NHL after the season's done.
It came out today that Fox is staying.
Oh, Fox is going to stay for senior year.
Yeah, it came out today. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's more so he wants to wait it out and do the easy thing and kind of be a free agent. So, and I don't blame him. Get that Harvard degree and pick your destination. I mean, to have, I mean, I
hold on a
wouldn't
sec,
go to
guys.
Carolina. That's just me. So, but yeah, he's staying. That came out today. I forget where I saw it, but I did see it. So I was happy. Because I was under the impression that he was probably going to leave too. So,
so Foxy is coming back for another year at Harvard. That's great hope for the Crimson then.
I think so. I mean, I would love to see Makar stay, but I mean, it's one of them things. He's ready. Everybody knows he's ready. But I mean, it's time to move on. As much as we'd love to have you. Yeah. The NHL awaits.
And he's ready to be a stud in the National Hockey League, I think. I mean, he should win the Hobey Baker this year. And that award is basically turned into the you're way too good for college, so we're going to give you this nice shiny trophy on the way out and go make a lot of money in the NHL. I mean, Eichel, it was that way. Gaudette, it was that way. Gaudreau, it was that way. It's turned into you are far too good for college, so congratulations. Thanks for torching our league. Now go and make a lot of money and go be a pro player. It's basically the way that deal ends up working itself out. And player's not going to complain. The player's going to make a lot of money off of playing professional ice hockey, which is a pretty good life, all things considered. So I would take. I want to make sure I got everyone straight. I think UMass will end up pulling the victory. I think they have a more complete team. I think there's fewer questions, and that goaltending situation is a bit better. Whoever they throw in, so I'm taking UMass to win that game. Everyone's in agreement?
Yep.
All right, Clarkson, Notre Dame. Help me out here. Gentlemen, who?
I think that's a tough one. It really is, because they're very similar in the style of play, and they're both built from the back out. They each have amazing goaltenders. I think Kylie's one of the best in the country. I don't know. That's just, to me, that's a pick'em. It's really a toss-up. I think Notre Dame will prevail because they've been in the battles. You know what I mean? They know what it takes. Mm-hmm. So I think it'll be like the tightest of margins, probably like a 1-goal game, maybe even overtime. But I think Notre Dame has that slight edge.
Josh, your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, this one really, I agree that it's definitely seems like a coin flip to me. I think it's the hardest game of any of these that are coming up, and yeah, and I mean, pretty much for the same reasons that I think I would go with Notre Dame too. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to agree. It's really a tough one, and I could really see this going to overtime as well. But I would go with Notre Dame as well.
I'll agree with that one as well. I just think that I do think the experience plays a factor in this one. And this Notre Dame team, there were some considerable changes from last year's unit. They graduated a lot of seniors, but Cale Morris was the best goaltender in college hockey last year for his total body work, and he remains one of the best goaltenders in the country to this point in the season here. So I'd expect him, and Jay Kiley's great, but I just think that Notre Dame has the pieces in order to make a run out of it, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Notre Dame beat UMass in Manchester for the championship game. I mean, the last time Notre Dame was in the Manchester Regional, they upset a school in the Massachusetts system. They beat UMass Lowell in overtime in a game in which Lowell was 150 billion times over the better hockey team than Notre Dame. But, Anders Bjork and Cal Peterson thought otherwise, and those two won the game and sent Notre Dame to the Frozen Four. At the time, I think it was the third time in program history. So I wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame makes a run out of it. I still think UMass reaches the Frozen Four out of this bracket, but I'd be approximately 0% surprised if Notre Dame pulls off something from this whole thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I still think it'll be UMass, but I Notre Dame, they're that good. They have coach, they have it all, and I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
But I do think it'll be UMass.
Yeah, Josh.
Yeah, coming out, it's tough. I think that would be a great championship game here. I would be really interested to kind of see how that one goes. But yeah, I just think that I think UMass has been kind of a team on a mission this year, and I would really say that it seems like if they're going to make this run to the Frozen Four, given everything that we just talked about with Carr, and I would really say that I think that's going to be it would be a fun game, potentially go to overtime, and I had a tough time thinking about this one, but I think that UMass could be in for it this year. That's going to be a really fun game, but I just think that they're maybe a more complete team, and I don't think they're going to let what happened on Friday at the Garden show off again.
I'll agree with that one. Let's shift our focus to the Midwest Regional in Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is such a stupid name. But I've been told the building's really nice in Allentown, so that's something at least. Game 1 at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday, March 30th, Bowling Green and Minnesota Duluth. That game has a feel that's somewhat similar to the St. Cloud AIC game in that one team has a phenomenal story and nearly folded, and Bowling Green has been knocking on the door for a couple years. They lost to Michigan Tech in overtime of the WCHA title game in 2017 and missed out narrowly. They were eliminated in 2018 by Northern Michigan, and they finally get back to the NCAA tournament, and their reward is facing the reigning national champion Duluth Bulldogs. Have fun, boys. So,
oh yeah.
So yeah, that's just what I'm looking at and what I'm thinking, and I just think that Duluth blue line is too dominant for them to not reach the Frozen Four again. If I'm cutting to the chase a little bit too quickly here, I just think Duluth is that dominant on the blue line again.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, like most of the good teams, they've been.
Oh no, our man is cutting out here.
Huh?
Yeah, you know, your stuff was just fading in and out really, really badly. Is all. Thanks, technology.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Thanks, technology, for making this whole thing a little bit more difficult. I mean, I wish we had someone going out to Allentown. We won't have anyone there. I mean, I'm sure that, Josh, if you were sending anyone there for the Journal, it would only be for Quinnipiac, but it'd stay around just to watch Duluth put on clinics. Were you at the Frozen Four last year? I'm trying to remember if you were.
I was not.
Okay. So you didn't end up getting to see the clinic that Duluth put on from the... Actually, have you gotten to see this Duluth team? Because they've not been back east, if memory serves.
Yeah, I don't think... Yeah, I haven't seen them in a while. They were here at a regional one year, 2 or 3 years ago, I would like to say, but...
15. They were here in 2015 for the... they lost to BU in the...
That's right.
Yeah, they lost to BU in the Manchester regional, the Eichel team.
Yeah, and they played BC in Worcester. Was I think the year after that?
In 16?
I think.
I'd believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I've seen them last season at the Ledyard Classic at Dartmouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Frozen Four the year before in Chicago. I mean, they're stocked. They're just an absolute beast, and you know, I think they'll just roll through everybody in that one.
Yeah. Let's spend at least a little bit of time talking about the other game, the other really interesting story game of Arizona State, which congratulations, Sun Devils. You haven't played in a month, but now here you are in the NCAA tournament. Your reward is a Quinnipiac team who was upset and kind of humiliated on home ice by Brown. And instead of going to nearby Providence, which if they would have beaten Brown and moved on to Lake Placid, they probably would have been seated there. Instead, Allentown, Pennsylvania for you guys. So I just feel so bad for them that, well, in a way I feel bad because they messed up their chance, but in a way I don't feel bad because they messed up their chance, if that makes sense. So, thoughts on what we could end up seeing from these guys, from the Sun Devils and Bobcats at 7:30 Eastern in Allentown?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree with you on Duluth winning this, but winning this regional, I should say. But yeah, and I think it will be against Quinnipiac. I just think that kind of in a similar way to what Greg Carville talked about with UMass here in kind of out here in Hockey East. It's going to be a tough ask for them to come in, like you said, after not playing in a month. They've never had a tournament of this magnitude to play in, and I know earlier in the season that they have their own tournament that they were able to win, which I guess is a little bit of preparation. I know a lot of coaches like to use it that way, but I just don't see them in this game on this stage, especially against that team with a goaltender who they have a great goaltender in their own right in Decord, but just with Andrew Shortridge, who's been on fire seemingly the entire season, I don't see them being topped in that first game. Duluth is obviously a different story. They're the second best team in the country by the numbers, and I don't see them going down in this region.
I think that's fair. Jason?
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, if you're gonna pick an upset, this would be the one I'd pick.
Yeah.
I just think Quinnipiac is railing, and I think the loss of Fortunato has just been too much for them to overcome. I understand, that they were without Prisky and, 2 games, Shiplow for a game against Brown, but I just, to me, Fortunato was kind of like the unsung hero of that team, and since he's been down, they've been kind of, I don't want to say crappy, but not what they were for sure. And I think Arizona's going to pull it off. It's it's just one of those games where I think their goalie can steal a game, and they have a lot to prove. That they're here, and they don't want to just be, hey, look, we made it. Now let's go home. You know what I mean? So in every tournament, there's an upset. This is the one I'm going with.
Mm-hmm. I think I'll take Quinnipiac on this one. Just I don't really see how ASU can put it back together again so quickly. I think Quinnipiac has a slight goaltending edge. I think they have a slight blue line edge. I think they have a bigger than just slight blue line edge. I think it's a complete unit. I think that and I honestly don't think they would play badly against Duluth. I think they would hold their own and play honorably. I just don't think they have the guns to keep up with the Bulldogs. So I'll take Quinnipiac winning maybe, say, 4-2 with an empty netter at the end of it, and then falling to Duluth 5-2 again with an empty netter at the end of it. It would be my expectation of it. And then let's transition over to the last regional to talk about, the NCAA East Regional at the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence, Rhode Island, starting on Saturday. 1 p.m. puck drop between Providence and Minnesota State Mankato. The second game, Cornell and Northeastern, scheduled for, which means absolutely nothing in tournament time, but scheduled for 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So, we alluded to it earlier. Does home ice actually have a big factor or have an enormous factor in this game between the Friars and the Mavericks on Saturday afternoon?
No, I just think Providence better. As good as a season as Minnesota State has had, and I just think Providence is just a more complete team. I think there'll be obviously a ton of Providence fans there, but I think they could have played in Jupiter, Florida, and Providence would still win.
You're pretty resolute on that one.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm still a little bit harmed by the bad memories I have associated with Providence, but I mean, yeah, sure, okay. So we know you're taking Providence to win this one. Josh, I'm not as I'll say I'm not as gung ho on Providence as you are, certainly. Josh, are you as gung ho about Providence as our man Jason is?
No, but I guess to say exactly what Jason said about Arizona State and Quinnipiac, if I were to pick an upset, I think this would be the one. But I just think that, again, they're a team that's going to have to bounce back because they've been played in a couple of weeks now. But I just think it's been the winningest team in the country. They've again, it's another team that always seems like they come out here for the regionals too. I don't know why that is. But it seems like I guess if a team, because of that, if a team's gonna not have the plane ride be any kind of disadvantage, I guess it might be them because they're kind of used to coming out here. But yeah, I just think that I think it's going to be a close game, and I think kind of the way that Providence plays gives anyone fits, but I think they're going to be able to squeak out a really close, I would say, low-scoring game with the way Providence likes to play. I think it'll have some kind of advantage. I don't know what, but I don't think it's going to be enough for a win here.
So you think it'll end up being a Mankato win in that first game?
Yeah, I think so. I just see, I just see it kind of out that way. It's a team that's kind of they've won all year, and I think it'll take a really, really complete performance to kind of take them down. I think it's going to be a fun game, though.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I hope this doesn't sound like bias coming out of me, but I am going to take Mankato in a slight edge over Providence. And I just think that Mankato is primed to try and make some noise. I think Parker McKay is spectacular. I think they transitioned very well from last year into this year, and I think that they'll pull off the win over Providence. And now for the last of the opening games, and one that I think is the most interesting, Cornell and Northeastern. I know who I'm picking in this one, but I'm going to make you guys go first. The host gets to do that every so often. So Cornell Northeastern, I think this one is honestly the easiest, other than the St. Cloud AIC game, for me to pick. But who do you guys take in this whole thing?
You can go, Josh.
All right. I think if Galida plays, and it doesn't seem like that's going to happen, I could see it being maybe a little bit more of a contest. But I think Northeastern is certainly capable of going pretty far this year. I know they've been talking a lot about kind of finishing the business that they left out last year. I don't know if they come out of the entire regional, but I think they win this game.
Okay.
And it should be it would be a lot tougher if Galida plays, but I just think that would be certainly with Caden Primo really decided advantage in that department if he's not.
Mm-hmm. Jason, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I have to agree. The situation with Cornell doesn't help Cornell, so I do think Northeastern will prevail. One of the best quotes I ever heard was Tyler Madden after the Beanpot win. When the lights are on, I shine. And I mean, now the lights are on, and I just think that Northeastern just has too much talent. I mean, obviously Cornell does too, but I just think that Northeastern's going to win this one.
Mm-hmm. I'll go ahead and agree. I think Northeastern, and I honestly think this has the potential of being a blowout with all the injuries that Cornell has. I don't think it will be, but I think it has the potential of being a walk for Northeastern. So just that team is clicking. That team is feeling like they have a chance to really do something special. I mean, they already have done something special. They're the only school to have a banner in TD Garden aside from the Bruins and the Celtics, and they're gearing up. They're ready to go for a game that they should have beaten Michigan last year. They were a better team than Michigan last year, I think. And
yeah, and they have a better team this year. I think. As good as they were last year, I think this year they're more well balanced.
Well,
you know what I mean? They're getting it from more people, it seems like.
Well, maybe I think you can call it something similar to the Jimmy Vesey syndrome, in which Vesey was the best player in college hockey in the 15-16 year. And the offense just naturally gravitated to him, and Harvard was actually not as good a team as a result. When he and Chris Scolo left after this 15-16 year, that 16-17 year, everyone else had to step up, and you saw Kerfoot and Fox and Donato be monstrous on the ice that whole season because they had to be. They had relied maybe a little too much on their top-level elite guys, and everyone else had to fill in, and everyone else stepped up their game. And I think it's not quite the same level of domination that Northeastern's put out there, but I think that's probably I don't know if I'm overstating that situation, but does that sound like a reasonable assessment?
Yeah, no, it sounds reasonable. I just think that they have more depth this year, and you know what I mean? Like, as good as they were last year, I just think there's more to it this year.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's a good assessment.
I mean, I'm also going to say that I think Northeastern beats Providence and makes the Frozen Four. For only the second time in program history. I think this is a Frozen Four team. I'm not sure this is a national championship team, but I think Northeastern beats Mankato and makes its way to the Frozen Four for the first time since 1982.
I agree.
So we've got two Northeasterns going to the Frozen Four. Josh, you have the same regional final as I do between Northeastern and Mankato.
I don't know. It's a tough one. I think that, I guess if there's a team that would take them down, it would be this one. And I think maybe that they're thinking of that business, but I think I like that team a lot, and I think that they are pretty talented, but I don't know if they overcome Mankato in this case. I think I'm going with the Mavericks here. I think it's going to be a tough game, but it's another coin flip. But I think I'm going with Mankato here.
Okay, so a brief recount in the Northeast Regional. We all think that UMass will make the Frozen Four with the possibility of Notre Dame pulling an upset. I got that all right?
Yeah.
Yep.
The West Regional, we all think that St. Cloud State is the favorite to make it, maybe easily, and also we also think that St. Cloud is probably the favorite to win the national championship this year. We got that right?
I didn't know we were going that far.
Well, we're not going to don't worry. We're not
I do think that they will come out of it. I don't know if they'll win it yet, but...
Oh, don't worry. I'm not asking for a national championship winner.
I know.
I'm asking for a national championship favorite. And I do think St. Cloud is at least the betting favorite to win the national championship this year.
I guess they'd be considered the favorite, but yeah.
All right, so but we all think St. Cloud coming out of Fargo. In Allentown, I'm not going to call it the Midwest Regional. That name is stupid. We all think that Duluth is going to make it out of there. Correct?
Yep.
And the only disagreement we have actually among us three is in Providence, where Jason and I believe that Northeastern will make the Frozen Four, and Josh believes that it will be Mankato making it. Have I got all that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So Josh is going mostly with chalk here. Well, actually, no, entirely with chalk, because you have all of the number one seeds making it to the Frozen Four, which I don't think that's happened for a long time. I don't think that's happened since. Actually, when was the last time that all number one seeds made the Frozen Four? Because I can't remember when it was.
Yeah, top of my head, I can't remember.
Well,
to be honest with you, I didn't even realize that's what happened.
yeah. So so you've got all the number ones. I have most of the number ones, and Jason and I have most of the number ones, with the possible exception of Northeastern making it out as a 2 seed. And they're ranked number 5 in the nation in the last entirely meaningless regular season quote unquote poll, which I kind of joined on to the agreement that it's kind of a stupid thing to be judging people on right now. But whatever, I suppose. So
yeah.
So yeah, that's who we think will end up making it out of the NCAA tournament. And for the games that we'll be seeing this weekend, other than the heart splitting that Jason will be undergoing for Harvard and UMass, other than that one, is there anyone that we are the most intrigued about seeing and the most excited for seeing this weekend? Even if we're just watching it afar on television, is there any one of these games that we're more interested in seeing than any of the others?
First round match, I like the Notre Dame Clarkson one,
mm-hmm.
and the Minnesota State Providence one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think those two are going to be very close, entertaining games. I'll let Josh go, and then I guess we can talk on speculative second round games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree. I think UMass Harvard is going to be fun as well. I think, like we're talking about, I think that maybe UMass is the more complete team with fewer question marks. But I think it will be a fun game. And I know we talked a lot about Makar and Fox, and really have for the whole year. I think it's going to be a really fun game, and specifically watching those two guys and their power plays kind of going at it. I think it's going to be a really fun one, along with the two that Jason mentioned. I would definitely agree.
Mm-hmm. I'll say the Arizona State Quinnipiac one is the really interesting one here, just because I want to see what Arizona State can do on this stage and on this sheet of ice. So that's the one of the ones I'm not seeing in person or anything, that's the one I'm the most intrigued about, just to see how they react to the situation. As for ones that I will be seeing, I'll sign on for the Notre Dame Clarkson one being the most interesting one. I don't disagree that I think Harvard and UMass could be a lot of fun. I won't even disagree with the fact that it could be a fireworks show. Not really because the goaltending might be poor, it's just because those two offense, if they click, are electric. So yeah, I will sign on to both those being pretty fun, but I just have something in my gut telling me Notre Dame Clarkson might be a hair more interesting. And as it pertains to what's a hypothetical second-round matchups, there isn't a hesitation in my mind. The Notre Dame-UMass game that we all think will end up happening is the one that I am the most intrigued on by far.
Yeah, I think that one will be an awesome game. I think St. Cloud versus Denver, if it goes that way, would be an awesome game. I still think St. Cloud would come out, but that would be a good game, just conference rivals.
Yeah.
Northeastern against either Providence or Minnesota State, I think would be a great game. I guess for that matter, Cornell, if Colagio was to play, would be a good one against Minnesota State. I'm just kind of hoping that Minnesota State wears the yellow jerseys for as many games as they play.
Yeah.
Those yellow jerseys with the purple writing are just sick.
They are perfect.
The one, where it says like Mankato right down the front.
Yeah, the cursive purple writing on the gold backdrop. It is.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
I think it's the best uniform, and I don't think they have a bad uniform in their collection. It's the best one going right now in college hockey, and it's a year old. Much as I love the classic BU jerseys, much as the Mankato jerseys are the absolute best in the sport. So yeah, that's gonna be that'd be nice to see. I hope we do see it.
Yeah.
I
hope so too.
Yeah, that'd be nice to see. All right, so let's tie up a few very brief other odds and ends. That's what we think will end up with the regionals. We are not going to predict Frozen Four stuff because that's still a couple weeks away. And have you seen this sport? This sport has the potential of being very dumb. I'm not going to ask anyone to try and make predictions right now because there's a very good chance that we might be entirely wrong on all this stuff. And I'm not going to have everyone be made a fool of here. More importantly, I'm not going to allow myself to be made a fool of for not being Nostradamus. So, yeah, we're going to cut the predictions part off there. And we're gonna move on with our lives. There's one other, I think, interesting story that I wanted to get to as well, which is in the off season before this year got underway, when Tim, God rest his soul, was still with us. And by the way, Tim Williams, a Northeastern man, I so badly wish he were actually around and able to see the fact that Northeastern has the Hockey East Championship and the Beanpot in the same year. I really wish you were around to see that. But when he was...
Oh, he sees it.
Yeah, he sees this.
Uh-huh.
But
he does.
Yeah, but when early on in the year, we did an episode entitled Project Beanpot Everywhere. With the idea of the Beanpot being the best middle season tournament, with possible exception being given to the Big Five college basketball tournament in Philadelphia. Again, possible exception. We posited that it would be a good idea for the Connecticut teams to have such a tournament. And, well, we are getting such a thing. SNY is announcing the Connecticut Ice Tournament. It's a 3-day festival celebrating youth and amateur hockey in Connecticut, set to take place January 24th to the 26th in 2020. The 4 Division I men's college hockey teams in Connecticut are going to be playing in a tournament that will be on the... And they've even given out a full schedule for this full thing. The SNY College Tournament would be on the 25th and 26th at the Webster Bank Arena in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And all these games would be broadcast on SNY, which is the main channel broadcasting Met games. I think they also do they don't do Ranger games. Those are on MSG, but they do they're primarily a Met station. They do stuff with the Jets. They do stuff with UConn basketball. And I can't help but say that this is a really, really good thing for the development and the growth of the sport. And I can't help but think that this is a really good thing for all these teams to get together, not only for the quality of hockey, but for the chance of developing the sport in potentially new markets, I think.
Yeah, I think it's obviously a couple of years ago maybe it didn't look like such a good thing, but obviously this year Sacred Heart had such a good season in Atlantic hockey, and we're almost one of the kind of the finalists in that tournament, and obviously hockey's team and Quinnipiac going to the tournament again. I think it's shaping up to be a lot of fun, and I have a feeling it could be one of those things that maybe moves around the state a little bit because it is such a hockey state, and there are a lot of places involved in the game.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I mean,
yeah.
Connecticut is kind of a weird place. Just having grown up there, Connecticut primarily is a cultural thing, is that place that exists between Massachusetts and New York. That's its primary. And I don't think it's a good, stable foothold for cultural development and for developing your own stable place from like a sociological perspective on that. But I do think that it does have its own unique brand of history. I mean, there's a lot of really, really high-caliber NHL players who've come out of there. Like Nick Bonino's from my hometown of West Hartford, played at Avon Old Farms. Jonathan Quick played at Avon Old Farms and went up to UMass. I mean, there's some really, really good. Chris Drury's from Trumbull, played on the Little League team that went to the Little League World Series. So, sorry, Brian Leach?
Yep.
Yeah, Leach as well.
Leach.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good players. Yeah, there's good players who've come from the Nutmeg State.
Yep, as solid. It's a solid hockey state. It really is. Yes, it is maybe unfortunate. Not saying unfortunate that you grew up there. Unfortunate that it is kind of like a buffer zone between Massachusetts and New York.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's great for the game, and I think it's great for for those schools, to have like a quote unquote nutmeg bowl or whatever they're going to call it. I think it's a great idea.
The title of the weekend is going to be Connecticut Ice, which, I mean, I guess that's fine. The Beanpot was hit so perfectly that it's really hard to replicate it anywhere else, but, this is pretty cool. So I think this could end up working out. And there's one other there's a really interesting angle that I've been saying for a while that college hockey, they need to get a team. They need to try and get a school in the immediate New York City area playing this sport because it's the biggest media market in the country by far. It's the biggest population place. And they like hockey. I mean, they love the Islanders and the Rangers, and the people in that area support the Devils pretty religiously. And the closest team in the state to New York City is, I think, up in Albany with RPI and Union, and that's not New York City at all. So there needs to be something. And this tournament, it's obviously not a New York team or anything, but it is being broadcast on SNY, which is a New York station. So I think that does mean something for much as it sounds weird for a New Englander to want to say good things about New York, you got to get New York involved if you want to develop this sport. And you need to try and spark up and drum some interest of someone in the state of New York in order to make this whole thing happen, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I don't know what school you would get involved in. I think St. John's is to invest in basketball, wouldn't have the resources. Maybe Fordham would be the best guess, but I don't know if I'm overblowing this, but Josh, I'm sure your friends with the New York Hockey Journal wouldn't mind teams in New York City also getting involved in this whole fun little shindig we have.
Yeah, I guess the even though it's not all directly New York, I'm the one that kind of surprises me is some of these Ivy League schools that haven't. I know there's a rink at I guess say Pennsylvania, for example, and Columbia is right in New York City. So I guess for the purposes of that it's a little surprising. And but yeah, I don't know where the next team is going to be, but I guess just for my own curiosity and just the way that I've thought about it, that's kind of the area that's going to struck me the most as to why maybe some of them haven't gone yet, because especially at those places, it's certainly not about the resources.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it might just be for space because Columbia being on the island of Manhattan, they don't have a lot of room. I think there's one ice rink on the island of Manhattan, and that's down. It's if we're not counting the occasional seasonal ones, there's a local one right down on the pier in right on the Hudson River down towards NYU, and that's the only ice rink on the entire island of Manhattan. So for the New York interest in hockey is really Westchester County and the suburbs around it. So it's a tough place to get it, but you've got to get someone involved in it. And I mean, Columbia is bad at sports generally. They're better at journalism and stuff. They have never been good at sports. Seriously, Cornell and Harvard are the jock Ivy League schools, and they're already instated. Brown is that school that kind of comes along and just happens to exist every so often. Dartmouth, you go up there to get to New Hampshire and enjoy places. Princeton, only people from New Jersey go to Princeton. So I don't mind people from New Jersey. It's just, it is New Jersey. So yeah, you got to get something involved in the city of New York would be my thing, and I hope that maybe tangentially, I hope that this thing ends up moving them forward. And I'm just happy that Connecticut, in one way, finally has their life all together. So, that's good and stuff. It's a rarity for Connecticut to actually have a sports thing that works. I don't want to poo-poo my home state, but it's just there's so many things to complain about, guys. You have no idea.
No, I don't.
And I'm happy for your sake that you guys don't. So, goodness. So, I think we've run a little bit long. I think we're going to have to cut it all off here. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on for this hour-and-a-half episode of Puck University. I really hope the compression of all this fits in. I really hope that the posters don't mind that the file size is significantly larger than normal. You can find Jason Scales on the Twitter and on the Instagram space at Pucking Off. He does stuff for his own personal blog. He does stuff with Inside Hockey. Jason, you will be primarily at the Northeast Regional in Manchester. You'll be doing the write-ups, and I'll be doing the photography work to help you out with that stuff, and you'll be doing the reverse for me in Providence this weekend.
Correct.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much for coming on and for being a part of the show. Josh Kummins of the New England Hockey Journal will be bouncing back and forth between the two regionals, somewhat similar to what Jason and I will be doing, but writing, of course, his stuff with the New England Hockey Journal. You can follow him at Joshua Kummins on both the Twitter and on the Instagram. Just make sure you use the definite article in it before you describe it. It makes you sound ever so slightly more pretentious. So, which Josh, the LaSalle College grad, is clearly the most pretentious among us here. I'm a BU person. I'm obviously the most. At least I'm not a BC person. So yeah, Josh, thanks for coming on, and thanks for providing your wisdom, and have as much fun as possible with these weekends. I'll be seeing you around at both these places.
You will. I will be 2 days in Providence, I believe. So
both days in Providence. Sorry, you'll be full-time in Providence for basically Saturday and Sunday?
Yes, exactly. And I'll be in Manchester on Friday, I believe.
Awesome. That's what I'll be doing as well, most likely. I will try, and if it turns into a blowout between Northeastern and Cornell, I might jet and go up to Manchester and catch as much of that title game as I can, because that's one of the more interesting things, I think, at least. So best of luck to all of you. I hope that you all travel safely between the two places. I hope that best of luck for all your teams, whatever team you happen to be a fan of who's in the tournament. Any team who's not in a tournament, I'm sorry that joined the club. And I hope for the best for all your teams, and best of luck to all you guys. You can follow me on the Twitter at @CCLynchWall. You can follow me on the Instagram at CCLynch16. You can listen to this show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, and Blog Talk Radio. You can follow this show and the stuff that we post on the Instagram and on the Twitter at University Puck. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Thank you for your interest in college hockey, particularly in this most busy and most wonderful time of the year when things are actually warm and we still have college hockey to enjoy, or at least warm compared to the winter up here in New England, and it'll be in the 60s on Saturday. So thank you very much for supporting us and for enjoying the show and for sharing it and sending it over to all your friends and all the like. And in the words of the great Tim Williams, keep your head up and your hits clean.